Hello friends, as you guys can see from the title today, I am updating you on my Project 50 uses. I started this in January of this year, have yet to update you guys because I really wanted to get some progress in here. I know some of you guys didn't mind if I shared with you guys a little bit, but I wanted to get the hang of this project pan before I did an update and waste your time and my time by telling y'all used a palette 5 times and another one 0. So I have my update. I have a little bit of changes that I'm going to do now that I am basically 3 months into this project pan and I've learned how I'm doing this project. So if you're interested, let's get into it. If you are new to this project pan and you have no idea how I structured this or what my thought process was with this one, I highly suggest you check out my intro video. That way you guys can get all the ins and outs, my thought process and everything and so forth. So then with the little bit of changes that I'm going to do are not going to be like, what did you do before that you're making these changes? So I have 4 palettes in here. I try to do a nice variety of palettes in here depending on the time of year. So I'm actually very excited. So I'm going to start out with the least amount used all the way up to the most used. So that way you guys can see what damage I have done. So first and foremost, I brought in the Natasha Denona Star palette. Now this palette, I really do like, and I wanted to bring this in not only because it worked really nice with the cooler tones, but I also have warm tones in here so I can mix and match. So it really doesn't matter what time of year I'm using this, I can always get use out of it. Unfortunately, I only got one use and only one use, and that only one use was in the intro video. I will explain to you guys why I chose that, but this palette I feel like can go all year round, so I'm not upset about it. So that's gonna still stay in here because I got 49 uses left. The second palette that I had was the Pat McGrath Subversive Decadence palette. So this palette, as you guys can see, has been used quite a bit. I've only used this 13 times. I really have been enjoying using this one, but I kind of halted back using this one because I wanted to extend its lifetime in this project pan due to the fact of how I've been using my palettes. I found a routine, I found a rhythm, I found a way to use certain palettes, so I didn't want to disturb that by trying to throw this palette in the mix. So I'm still having this one in here. I still have like at least 38 uses left around there. So I don't see myself having an issue, even though this is more cooler tone, more rich, but I can see myself getting use out of this in the spring, summertime. So I'm not mad at this one still being in here. Now we have this one. This is the Viseart Bridal Satin Palette. This was brand new when I brought this in, you guys, and you guys can see that I have used quite a bit of it. So this one does have 50 uses. This one I used nonstop. I fell in love all over again with the Viseart Satin formula. This is all satin shadows. There is no mattes in here. There's no sparkle or anything. These are just their satin formula, but I love it because I discovered how much I enjoy it on my lower lash line and as an inner corner highlight. Both of those ways are so flattering on my skin tone, on my skin in general. That's exactly how I use this palette. Any of these shades were mainly used to put on my lower lash line or in my inner corner. Because these shades are not super sparkly or they're not a flat matte, it gives some sort of dimension on the lower lash line that makes you look awake, but it's not too much. If I have too much sparkle on my lower lash line, I kind of feel like I'm trying too hard to look young. And if I have a matte, it makes my under eyes look dry. So I have to find a middle ground, and I realized that the Viseart Satin formula, as much as it gets hate, as much as it gets being pushed aside by most people, I feel like this is one of those amazing formulas. If you have a mature skin tone or you want that little bit of light filtering look, but without it being sparkly or glittery and not getting that stuff in your eyes, this is perfect. Love this one. The only shade I didn't use was obviously the black one. Every other shade got used at least once, but I did use quite a bit. These browns over here, these two right here, you guys can see that they have some sort of dip going on in them. This one as well. I really enjoyed it. I had so much fun. It was a natural thing to reach for this. And I'm so happy that I've kept these because it made me realize it. I did use some of these on my lid, and you're getting a saturated color. It's not a sheer color. It's not a wash of color. These are saturated in their color where you can actually have it all over the lid. It's just if you want to have some glitter, to it or sparkle, I would top it with something else, which is exactly what I did. But these lasted all day. I love this one. I'm so happy that I put this in because I never had touched it prior to this, but it got its 50 uses, and 50 uses, you guys. And it doesn't look like I did much. This is gonna last me a lifetime. Last but not least was the Sultry palette. Now this one again got 50 uses. One of you guys had predicted that this would probably be the palette that I would use 50 times. And I will say that I have realized that I've never fallen out of love with this palette. I could continue using this palette every day, all year round, and not get bored with it. And that's saying a lot for somebody who does have a lot of eyeshadow palettes. This one just did everything I wanted it to do and more. And I ended up getting 3 pans in this palette. So I ended up getting this pan, and this pan. This did reach its 50 uses, and I saw how much I depended on this palette for quick looks, everyday looks that I didn't want to look too put together, but it still looked put together, if you know what I mean, with some sort of color or vibrancy to it, but not too much. This is perfect. The only shades I did not use were the peachy shade because at the time I didn't care to use it, the gray shade, and the black shade. Everything else got used, including this silver one in Cyborg. I was able to find a shadow that I was panning that mixed with that one so well, and it looks so beautiful on the lids. I enjoyed it. This palette, I got a lot of use out of it. This one has a nice dip going on into it. This one has a nice dip. This one has a nice dip. I am just so happy with this palette. It just looks so nice on my eyes. It really, really did. And I could continue to use this if I want, but 50 uses, this is what it's looking like. And I'm very happy, very happy. I've been wanting to use this palette for a really long time, and now I understand why. These bronzy kind of gold, rose gold shades have always been my favorite, and this just solidifies that I can live with a bunch of bronzes, brown bronzies, red bronzies, gold bronzes, whatever kind of bronze, and I'd be content for the rest of my life. I love that shade on my eye. So this is also gonna get rolled out. Okay, so these two are staying in, obviously. These two are gonna be the forefront now for me wanting to use, you know, to get more use out of them. Here's what I have concluded by doing this project pan. I rolled in 4 palettes, and I was hesitant to roll in 4 palettes, but I didn't know how I was going to naturally gravitate towards these palettes. So I brought in 4. But I knew my better judgment. I should have brought in 3. I already know that 3 is like my sweet spot, and I can rotate through 3 palettes daily, plus anything else that I'm panning on my eyes, and be okay with it. I was feeling guilty having 4 palettes because this one only got 1 use. And I realized that I'm not rolling in 2 palettes to replace these 2. I'm only gonna roll in 1 palette because going forward, I only wanna have 3 palettes at a time here. If I bring in 4 or more palettes into this project pan, I'm gonna feel overwhelmed. I'm gonna feel guilty not being able to touch the other palettes. Mainly because I'm doing pan those eyeshadows. That might change next year. I'm still feeling it out this year to see if I want to concentrate more on this project pan or that one. I was happy, one, that I'm able to naturally hit pan on shadows without forcing it, without trying too hard. I love it. I got 3 shadows that had pan this time around. 2, I realized what I'm reaching for in each palette and what it is that I really enjoy and how to love that formula for myself and the way that I like to do my makeup. This time around, I'm only gonna bring in 1 palette. So going forward, I'm only gonna have 3 palettes in this project pan. And obviously when I get a good amount of usage out of these and I'm almost at the end, that's when I'll update you guys on this project. So I had asked my members to help me out on choosing what palette I should roll in next. Because of how I have been going with this palette or these palettes throughout these last few months, I couldn't decide. I was very set on what palette I was gonna roll in this time around, but then I started second guessing myself. So I figured I wanted my memberships. I wanted my members to help me out with it, and the majority ruled. So I am rolling in this palette. This is the Natasha Denona Mini Star palette. The reason why I put this as a contender was because I'm getting 3 shadows here that are neutral, but I'm getting pops of color on the side. So if I care to have more pops of color, I have these to go with. This is a nice, easy to the point kind of palette for me to use, but I also feel like I neglect smaller palettes, and I wanted to bring something in for 50 uses that I would enjoy, one, and two, challenge myself, because 5 shadows for me is a challenge. I thrive better in a bigger palette with more options because I love options. This is gonna challenge me to see how I use these, because I love my 5-pan palettes from Natasha Denona, but it's always like one look, once a week kind of thing, and it's not like a daily thing for me to really reach for. So this is gonna challenge me. So I feel like now, having all 3 of these together, I can see myself getting quite a bit of use out of these, and maybe again rolling out 2 at a time. So this is where I'm going for. And you guys know that I love the fact that I am reaching and choosing more of my higher end makeup, and that's the whole point. This is my higher end makeup, and I want it to get used and enjoyed. So I'm very happy with this. This has taught me a lot. It's taught me a lot about what shadows I'm reaching for, what shadows I'm not reaching for. For instance, this one, I've only used it 13 times, but I will tell you that I've reached for every single shadow in here minus this yellow. This yellow is just not my favorite, and I already knew that. This yellow is just too yellow for me. I don't like this yellowy gold. It's either has to be a yellow or a gold. Like, this has to have some sort of depth for me, and I may have to end up mixing that with something else in order for me to enjoy it. No different from this one, when I knew I was gonna reach for all of these right here, except for this black one. This black one I knew was gonna give me a hard time. And even the blues I did reach for, but not as much as I expected to, because I had other blues I was reaching for. But I mainly stuck to this side of the palette. Makes sense. The purples were beautiful. It just, I see how I enjoy a palette. So this is giving me an eye opener to know when, if I want to purchase a new palette, exactly to scan each shadow to see what I would reach for and what I not. What's the percentage of me using that palette, and would it be worth it for me? Same thing goes for here. The majority of this palette got used minus 3 shades, which was these 2 right here and the black one. That was expected. I knew that was gonna happen, but everything else got touched, including that silver. So I'm very happy that I'm learning this from myself, because I never actually gave myself this kind of opportunity, because it's always the newest, the latest, the greatest, or panning. So I'm trying to find a middle ground now, as I'm evolving once again in my journey on YouTube. Let me know in the comment section what you guys think of the new way I'm doing it, how I'm thinking about my palettes. Is this the same way you're doing it? Are you thinking differently? Do you reach for certain things? Do you force yourself? This is not a project pan I want to force myself to reach for certain shades if it's not something I'm going to enjoy. This project pan is one to help me reach for palettes that I rarely reach for, especially my higher end ones, to see how my habits are, and to just enjoy them and incorporate them in my other project pans or my everyday use. And these 3 will be something I can reach for and not feel like it's purple like this, or a bright, you know, eyeshadow that I really don't want to wear every single day. I like my pops of color, not necessarily having a bold look, whether it's neutral bold or colorful bold. I like to have it right in the middle at this point in my life. Alrighty, friends, that's all that I have for you guys today. I'm so excited. I'm happy this is going, and I'm not bored with it. I'm not bored with it. I'm liking this project pan. All right, guys, that's all that I have for you guys today. If you want to join my membership and be more involved, help me out with certain things, watch content that I normally wouldn't put out on my normal channel, I suggest you join. I have 2 different tiers for anybody that wants to join. I do my best to try to do things you guys want to see. It's mainly geared towards your own views of what you guys want to see from me. So that's what I do. And I'm so happy that those that are involved in many ways than one when it comes to my channel. So I'll leave everything you need to know down. I think it's in the bar where it says like join or something, and I'll also leave a link at the end of the video. So if you're interested. All right, guys, that's all that I have. Bye.